Welcome to the PrepZone Show presented by Bevill State. I'm your host, Johnathan Bentley, joined with my co-host, Zak McCullough. Zak, we're done with high school football, unfortunately.
A happy Thanksgiving to everyone out there, but for these three high school teams that made it to this round, they were hoping Thanksgiving weekend might be a little better with some semifinal football. Unfortunately, that couldn't happen as everybody got beat.
Yeah, it was. You made it far in the playoffs when you're practicing Thanksgiving week.
Right.
And I really thought we'd have somebody practice.
I figured we would.
Somebody.
When you get to this point of the playoffs, you're not going to have any cakewalks when it comes to opponents. Everybody you play is going to be really, really good, and caught up to our teams.
Yeah. We'll start with a game I went to. I went through the woods of Sulligent, popped up at a high school. Unfortunately, a game happened over there. And Sulligent beats Winston County 38-12. And it was just, they scored first. And then it was 38 points. And then they scored again.
So they kind of bookended it with touchdowns. Yes. Sulligent, beautiful place. Unfortunately, that's where Winston County's season ends. I hate it. I really thought that Winston County had a really good shot at getting to Birmingham. Absolutely unexpected, especially by this margin. Large margins of victories for the underdogs seemed to have been a common theme last week. Just Winston County had so much talent, but in the end, Sulligent just outplayed them. And that's a team that came into the game 8-4. So don't know what happened those 4 losses earlier in the season, but
makes you wonder.
It does. It makes you wonder
because it's a 2A team, and now their region is tough, and they play a region opponent in the semifinals, Tuscaloosa Academy, which was in Winston County's region, I think, as recently as last year. So, and so was Sulligent. So this was a team Winston County knows well. It got out of hand quick. It was 6-6 at halftime. But Sulligent probably had, 3 or 4 times the yardage.
Wow.
They just hadn't scored, and then they finally broke through, and then it was just...
Then it snowballed.
Yeah, they had a really good running back, hit over 200 yards, 4 touchdowns, which is usually what Winston County does.
Right, you usually have someone from Winston County with 4 touchdowns.
Yeah, they struggled. But I hate to see the season ended. I mean, it's still 12-1. That's pretty good.
That's a really, really good season. But
best winning percentage in Winston County history. A lot of other things they did first.
Now, this is a very historic season that Winston County can hopefully build on for next year.
Yes, keep it going there. Leeds 57, Corner 36. That surprised you?
It didn't really. Corner's been the comeback kings of this season. However, Leeds just had way too much firepower for Corner to overtake them. Corner came back and a little bit made it interesting at the end. But Leeds pulls off a 21-point victory to end the Yellow Jackets season. A great season for the Yellow Jackets, but Leeds just a buzzsaw.
Yeah, it was kind of like when you get to this point and fall down 3 touchdowns, the odds of you coming back is just very difficult, on the road especially. They got it to within 2 touchdowns and got the onside kick.
Wow.
And that was, they didn't, they got stopped there. Other team went and scored. It's Leeds. They're used to the stuff.
Yeah, Leeds, you can't mess around with Leeds. They will make you pay.
A game you were at, Hackleburg 32, Lynn 19, the closest one of the 3?
It was, and it really was a lot closer than this to the end. Hackleburg kind of snowballed some late touchdowns in there as they wore down on Lynn. But Panthers have a phenomenal, phenomenal team. Lynn, we said all year now they're finally getting healthy, healthy. Then injuries hit again in this game, and that completely tore Lynn's chances apart. Hackleburg, though, has a phenomenal, phenomenal team. Their quarterback, Blaze Vickery, is one of the best I've seen this year from any high school. So Hackleburg's just a buzzsaw.
So Hackleburg gets to go to Wadley?
That might not end well for Hackleburg.
Yeah, that'll be a great game. Wadley has a chance to win state. But Hackleburg getting this far, just think 2 years ago. This was a team that, had a handful of wins and didn't make the playoffs.
Yeah, they completely turned it around. That's the thing about 1A football. Is any team can pop up at any moment, and they'll have that ride of glory, but also any team can collapse at any moment, so you never know. This team might have sustained success, or they might go back down to where they were. You never know.
It's like South Lamar.
That's right.
They were down this
South
year.
Lamar
they were up just recently.
Last year was in the second round of the playoffs, nearly pulling an upset on Lynn. This year they were 2-8.
Then you look at Barry, it's the opposite of that.
Barry's the exact opposite. So it's 1A football.
Yeah, that's what makes it interesting. I do like that about 1A. All right, so we usually talk about like great performances here. Usually it's Spencer Unruh and Chris Clemens. But I want to highlight how good these other teams were, right? So Sullivan, Winston County, second, they had a good first drive. It stalled, I think, at the 23. Then they score the second drive. For the next 2 quarters after that, they did 2 yards. I mean, that tells you, you know how much firepower this team has.
Oh, absolutely. 2 yards in 2 quarters.
Sullivan was just, oh, boy, they were really good.
That's hard. That's hard to imagine that happening.
Yeah, so Clemens had an 86-yard touchdown run and finished with 80 yards.
Lost 6 yards everywhere else.
That has not happened. Nothing like this has happened.
Sullivan just had a great game plan and went out and executed.
I was very impressed with Sullivan and the staff and the crowd. Boy, it was nuts. All right, so corner, their problem, I mean, when you give up this many points, it's just...
Yeah, it's hard.
It's so fun to watch their games because they always come back, but it seemed like they were struggling defensively in the playoffs.
Well, and...
I mean, it is because it is the playoffs.
That's right. And when you allow this many points, an offense, especially one like corner that really relies on Spencer Unruh a lot, that's running the ball, you don't have as many opportunities as if you were throwing every single play. So when they just fell into a deficit, and the stat here... Corner outscored its playoff opponents 137 to 134. And that's over 3 games.
Points, yeah.
That's a lot of touchdowns.
Yeah, I hate they lost, but I mean, yet again, it's the lead. Eventually, you're going to run into somebody that's just used to it, veteran, and, it's going to be tough. That's why only one team wins in each classification.
That's
somebody's going to be disappointed almost every year, at least, except one team. Unless you're Jasper, that ends 7-3 in
That's right. Well, of all the high schools in this entire state, only 7 get to be champions.
Yeah,
and
it's very difficult.
Even the teams that pulled off the wins over ours, Sullivan, Leeds, Hackleburg, they might not. In fact, I would say probably are not going to win the state championship. Although you never know. It's just really tough to get as far as these teams have all gotten.
It's tough to, even make the championship. So we haven't had a team win around this area since 07 Cordova.
Wow. Has it been that long?
It's the day I got married.
Really?
Yes.
That has been a while.
Yes, it has. So I missed it.
You missed it.
Yeah,
Well,
I heard they won.
I missed it too because I was not born yet.
You were not even there.
Born yet.
So it's been a while. We need some a new championship team over here.
Well, someone will eventually break through. I just hope it's soon enough to where we get to enjoy it even more.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be nice. It'd be weird.
It would be, but I'd take it.
Yes. So Lynn, in the 3rd round for the second time in 3 years, had the best chance. Seems like Burkett had a good game and Dodd had a good game, but Dodd gets injured as they're driving.
As they are driving to go down there and take the lead.
That's tough.
We were in the booth with the Hackleburg coaches, and they were worried. Even winning against Lynn on the road, they were worried because they knew that Lynn team could come back at any moment and strike. And it didn't work out. But, yeah, Lynn, they played a good game. The crowd was into it. It was, they had a great crowd. Yeah. But in the end, Hackleburg had too much.
Did a train come through during the game?
A train actually came through after the game.
So that's the problem.
Yeah, well, if you could just push the game back about 20 minutes, it would have had a train.
But we hope Dodd gets better soon. I know it's tough to suffer injury in her last high school game.
I know.
And you're doing so well, they couldn't stop them.
That's right, especially knowing that if you'd have stayed in, maybe you'd have had another game. But
yeah. And he missed some games earlier this year.
That's right.
Tough. All right, so kind of talk about the future now. Where do you see these 3 teams? What do you see them doing now?
That's hard to say.
I know, because a lot of people will be gone.
Yep. And you never know if a bigger school might come and swoop up a coach.
Hopefully these coaches stay.
Hopefully they stay, but you never know. You never know, so it depends. A lot of talent's leaving. A lot of talent is staying as well.
Yeah, that's true.
I want to say last year we said the corner was going to be down, and look what they did.
I said Lynn would be down.
You said Lynn would be down. Well, they really weren't. So
they were just the same.
They weren't, and so you never know. Even if we think, this team, they're going to take a hit, they lost talent, they're going down, they could be even better. Yeah. Like corner, I would dare say that going from 12-1 to 4A to 11-2 and 5A. That's an improvement, even if the record's not an improvement, but it is an improved season. So you just never know what's going to happen.
This was a corner team that was not even supposed to make the playoffs.
No.
And I think they used that as a chip on their shoulder. It really worked. But a lot of these kids come back, but it's a different team that, I think they're going to have to replace line and stuff like that. That's not easy. So
the people that you don't know about,
that's
those
the thing.
are the
They've
ones
never
that
played.
make the impact.
Yeah, so like corner, a lot of guys just filled those spots and they took off. They had a quarterback that had never played, and look how well he did. So, yeah, you never can tell. But I think these teams have really good coaches. I mean, you're going to say Hastings, they're not going to take a step back. It's Lynn.
It's Lynn.
It's Lynn. They love playing football there. So, I don't know. It is hard to say. I mean, Winston County, you lose a generational. I said that about last year, about Kel Tittle. Like, you lose a generational guy, and then they did this. So, I mean, you're losing Clemens and the quarterback. I mean, that's a lot.
Yeah, losing Landon Kelly.
That'll be tough. But we'll see.
We will.
There'll be new faces, new names we don't even know right now.
And I tell you what, there are teams that didn't make the playoffs, and I'm thinking of Jasper especially, that could be in this position next year with the talent they're bringing back. So maybe some new faces in this situation in 25.
Hope so. It'll be different. Okay, kind of a little bit of a side note here. Can you talk about your favorite game this year that you saw in person?
Favorite high school
game?
And
I said, you can't mention Georgia, Alabama. that would be at the top of the list,
that would be at the very top.
Yes.
But so we're sticking to high school. That would have to be a battle between, let's see, Hubbardville and Meek in the first round of the playoffs, where Meek won 14-8. Was
that's right.
Phenomenal. That was one heck of a football game. But then go all the way back to the first game of the season, Carbon Hill and Curry, where Curry was driving down to win it and fumbled, and Carbon Hill picks it up with a minute left. Marcus Pierce with a crucial touchdown run in the fourth quarter to take the lead. That was an absolutely phenomenal game. So
who would think that looking back?
Yeah, looking back on the season that it had been, there were neither of the other teams pulled a win. Carbon Hill Curry hadn't pulled a win after that game. So it was really a crucial game.
Mine were probably both in Winston County. It was that Meek beating Addison, the way they beat them, and see it, everybody's so excited. Daniel Evans jumping. I mean, it was a great game. It was great to see, no matter who won, but the home team winning in that series is always awesome to see.
And
come down to the last play of the game.
Speaking of Winston County, when the Yellow Jackets of Winston County beat Decatur Heritage 14-7, that was a good game.
That's another,
that was a really good game. So we saw some pretty good games this year.
I was going to mention the Winston County Vincent. It was kind of the same way.
It was 25-20.
Yes, and had to have a 99-yard interception and a second interception by Clemens to seal that game. So Vincent, I wonder if they almost made the third round. I mean, that second round was really tough because Vincent was a good team, and I didn't expect that going in. But I wasn't sure.
If Vincent would have pulled the upset over Winston County, do you think they could have got past Sulligent the way Sulligent played?
I don't think so. Maybe it would have been a little bit closer because of a different team. I think Sulligent was just ready to go. It probably didn't help that Winston County was undefeated. That probably added a little bit to Sulligent's urge there.
That's the price for being the best. Is you take everyone's best shot.
Yes, they definitely did. All right, so who are your top 5 teams of the season? This will be the last time we do it.
It will. Last time we're ranking our teams. So number 5, the Jasper Vikings, going 7-3, especially after last year's 1-9 season that left a lot to be desired. Coach Reeves made a big step up in his second year. I expect a big step up as well in the third year. Hopefully a playoff berth and an even better season.
Yep, that's my number 5.
That's your number 5?
Yes. Because it was a great season. I mean, you can't overlook that. I mean, it's disappointing they didn't make the playoffs, but the turnaround, you got to think they were 1-9. I mean, I don't remember who they beat somebody, but that was it. And then they come back, they have that devastating Coleman game and still don't let it mess them up.
That's right. And you think if they would have just been able to hold on in the rain. I mean, imagine if it wasn't raining, the team could have made the playoffs.
I think so. I really do.
It was
the good thing is they'll get another chance at
Coleman. They will get another revenge chance. I hate it's on the road. I wish it was at home. That would be a fun game. Of course, it's Jasper Coleman. It's going to be a fun game anyway.
It's going to be close. All right, so number 4.
Number 4, Meek. The season that they had, starting 0-3, reeling off 8 straight wins, and then losing to Wadley in the second round of the playoffs.
I understand.
Wadley is a juggernaut. Have a really good chance to win the state title this year. Great season for the Tigers, for Daniel Evans. Just a phenomenal year.
Yeah, I was glad to see them. It seemed like the catalyst was that Addison game, even though it was kind of late.
Right.
I mean, it put them in the second. I mean, it was for second place in the region, so it was a big win. And it allowed them to get a home playoff game and where they beat Hubbardville.
Right. Yeah, had they lost that game, they would have had to go to Barry.
Oh, yeah, that would have. Oof.
Barry has a great team
really
this year.
Good. Yeah. All right, so number 3, we might
Number
have the
3.
same list here.
Might be. My number 3, the Corner Yellow Jackets. Oh, I bet we are identical today. The Corner Yellow Jackets having a phenomenal year, stepping up in classification, and then having a season very, very similar to the last one. That's unreal. That Trent Campbell's a phenomenal football coach. I mean, they have so much talent, especially Spencer Unruh leading that team to all those victories, the comebacks. This might have been the most entertaining team of the year because they really didn't blow anybody away that much. They were fighting for their lives every single week and somehow managed to escape from it.
And once you start doing that and do it again and again, you assume. Even the coach said after they lost that he assumed they were going to do it again.
Do it again, right?
Yeah, and it's those guys are. It's a machine. If you go to their practice, it's very business like. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like these guys are on a mission, and they said that.
Well,
so
that's how you're supposed. That's how you're supposed to do it. When you're on a high school football team, you're on a mission to win every single game and hold a trophy. And obviously, that, like we say, only 7 teams get to do that. But that's the goal, and especially there's a lot of fun had along the way, especially for Corner.
Yeah, hopefully some of these teams have some All-State kids. I think they will. Number 2, I guess, is Lynn.
Number 2 would be Lynn. In fact, Mark Hastings did another phenomenal job. Losing Cale Tittle to graduation, had no idea what this team was going to look like. Then they go out and they're the same exact, dominant, beat everybody up. And this year they're losing some talent too. I mean, Braylon Roberts, he's gone.
That's a
Austin
good talent.
Dodd gone. So it's going to be very interesting to see if they take a season off or they kind of have a small step down, or if they just reload. I would imagine they would reload, just considering how good of a coach they've got.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what Barry's got. And Pickens County, do they bounce back after kind of a down year?
Ooh, Pickens had a rough season.
Yeah, they did. And Lynn beat them 6-0. I think they were better earlier in the year when Lynn played them. All right, so number 1, obviously, Winston County is the team
Winston
that's left.
County. They broke every school record it feels like that they could have broken this year.
If there was something there, they broke it.
If there was something there, they broke it, and including what they broke was a lot of dreams for other teams. Winston County was a juggernaut, and of course, the end of it's always going to leave kind of a bitter taste in your mouth. But still, going 12-1, especially after being 5-5 last year, just a phenomenal team. Coach Simmons does a great job up there in Double Springs. And especially, I know the community of Double Springs had to just love every minute of what they saw from their team.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. And seeing that, I remember being at the opener Addison, and they just, they blitzed them. It's like, good grief, is this Winston County really this good? But having Chris Clemens for a whole year, I think that's the difference. They didn't make the playoffs. They got played 1 game, and they beat Addison last year.
Right.
This year, he plays every game. So, and look, he had 1,000 receiving and 1,000 rushing. Well, I can't remember the last time we had a guy like that.
That's hard to do. And last year, went to a couple of Winston County games, and I thought, why is this team, especially after the season, how did that team only go 5-5? Because they were extremely talented last year, just like this year. Like you said, you have Chris Clemens the entire season. That's the difference. And 12-1 is the result.
Yeah, it was a great season, and I did not expect that. I was hoping playoffs,
Right.
It's kind of like Corner. I'm hoping playoffs, and these teams both win 11 games. So, yeah, shows what I know. All right, so we'll jump into college football here.
Do we have to?
It's all right. It'll be okay, I think.
Hope so.
I don't know. It still has a chance to be okay.
It has a chance.
But Alabama suffers. I put baffling. Would that be the right word?
I would
surprising. I don't know.
I don't think there's a word. Befuddling. Befuddling sounds better.
I was a befuddling loss to Oklahoma. Was this the worst loss of the year?
Absolutely.
I mean, even Vanderbilt, you got to think it was close.
Yeah, we were in it till the end.
And this was
it didn't come down to Jalen Milroe trying to slide tackle a defensive back or throwing 3 interceptions in the second half or allowing 250 yards rushing.
Whew. It was rough.
It was not fun.
So what was was it just Milroe? Well, it seemed like the offensive line struggled.
The offensive line struggled. He had, on average, about 2.5 seconds in the pocket before it collapsed.
So much time.
But he did the offense and the defense as well no favors. The defense was just they were bend but don't break. But with Milroe's interceptions, especially one was returned to about the 10-yard line, the other was taken back to the house. You take those away, and your score is 10-3. And then obviously Alabama had 1 touchdown scored late in the fourth quarter that the referees took away for a terrible penalty. Didn't end up mattering too much.
No, I don't.
You weren't
I don't even know what the
watching.
call was.
You weren't even
No,
watching.
I was
it.
watching. I watched most of the Alabama game, then turned it. Yeah,
I'm surprised you weren't watching Auburn and Texas A&M that whole
I
time.
turned it on eventually, but yeah, that was a terrible.
Yeah,
I still don't know what
penalty.
happened. I have no idea.
They
what
said that
called.
Ryan Williams was covered up on the line of scrimmage, meaning that someone closer to the sideline than him was also on the line of scrimmage, and that was obviously not the case.
Boy, it was awful.
And it was a phenomenal touchdown. And on 4th and 8, there was a loss of downs involved in that, so it turned it over on downs.
That was the game.
It ended it, but did it really matter? I've heard some people say that it would have changed the momentum of the game, and Alabama could have stormed back and won. No, I don't.
Did you see anything to make you think that though? Right?
No, I did not see anything.
Yeah, it was just one of those games where it wasn't going to happen.
And Milroe's decision making was off. I mean, he threw a long pass that was only 6 yards downfield, but all the way across the field to the backup tight end, Robbie Oots. It was picked off and run back for a touchdown. Just terrible decision making. The coaching, the play calling was bad. Milroe ran the ball. It felt like there were about 1 million designed quarterback runs.
Yeah, since it worked previously.
And only one of those runs, however many, I think they were probably around 20 in the entire game, realistically. Only one gained more than 5 yards. And that was on 3rd and 10 when they had nothing else to do. So they just ran it. This is already 24-3 late in the game. They ran it, and he got the first down. 5
yards?
He got 10 yards, actually.
Oh, okay. One went more than 5 yards.
One went more than 5 yards, and that one did.
That's incredible. It was crazy.
It was frustrating. I really can't think of a team in the SEC that Alabama would have beaten playing like that. Even except maybe Mississippi State.
Kentucky, maybe.
I don't know.
I don't know about
that. It was just bad.
Yeah, it's one of those where it really didn't matter who you're playing. It was nothing you could do.
Oklahoma played 9 power conference opponents all season, and that was their biggest win. In fact, they only won 3 games against a power opponent. Houston, they beat by 4 the second week of the season. Beat Auburn by 4. And then you go out and beat Alabama by 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, who saw that coming?
Not me.
Thorne threw a game-ending interception basically against them. They had the ball trying to run the clock out, and he made a terrible throw. And the guy, I think the same guy returned a touchdown against Alabama. They had a touchdown against Auburn, a pick 6. So yeah, they're 2-5 in the SEC, and both wins are against state teams.
Wow,
it's a good thing they didn't play UAB.
Ooh, that would have been badly.
All right, so we had 2 field storming incidences here. So Auburn beats Texas A&M 4 overtimes, 43-41. They stormed the field again, which is pitiful.
It is.
But it shows you the state of the program. But I don't want to go negative. I mean, let's start positive here.
You need to be positive today.
Yeah, for once.
For once in your life.
So the whole time I'm thinking they're going to blow it and he'll do something stupid. Especially goes to overtime. Like, well, I was surprised the kicker even made it. It's a Birmingham Southern guy they got out of the classroom. You know, they got this guy out of the classroom, put him on the field. Boom, he hits 2 clutch kicks. So that went well. And then they go to overtime, and it was just a thriller. You know?
And Texas A&M dropped a wide open 2-point conversion.
It should have been
would have sent it to 5th overtime.
Yes, yeah, that was a great play call by Texas A&M at the end, and the guy just dropped it.
You hate it. For
it
him.
Was fitting.
You hate it for him. You know, Auburn's lost so many games by just terrible, stupid mistakes. Yes. They deserve to win.
And they stormed the field, and I mean, yeah, but you got to think they haven't beat a ranked team since 2021. They have had losing seasons. What is this, 4 in a row?
4 in a row. Well,
yeah, so, I mean, they needed something positive.
Let's see now. Was 2020 a losing season?
No, it wasn't. Gus's last year, 2020, was a winning season.
Oh, it's 6-5.
Yes,
or was it
barely. I think that's right. It was 6-5. Did
they
have a bowl game? They lost the bowl game.
Did they have I thought they canceled it.
I can't remember.
It doesn't
They didn't deserve to go to a bowl game. And this team won't go to a bowl game either. Because we'll talk about the Iron Bowl real fast, but if it was at Auburn, what would you think right now?
It would not end well for Alabama. Auburn would win by 3 touchdowns if it was at Jordan-Hare.
But it's in Bryant-Denny, so that I think Auburn hasn't won there in a while. And
2010.
This team's so it took Cam to win.
It took Cam Newton and the number 1 team in the country to barely beat Alabama in Tuscaloosa.
It was a frigid night. I went from that game to the Parish playoff game same day. Because that was on a Friday, of all things.
That's weird to have the Iron Bowl on Black Friday.
So I came straight back home, went to Parish, and they got shut out by, I think it was Cortland or R.A. Hubbard, maybe?
Somewhere along
there. Yeah, one of those teams. And it was in the semis. So It's been a long time ago.
It has been a while.
2010, 14 years ago. So what will it take for Auburn to win? If Alabama plays like they did last week, I mean, they can't.
Auburn.
They won't do that at home.
No,
You look at their losses; they're all
home.
on the road. Right?
Of course, the loss to Vanderbilt, Alabama had 75% of the stadium wearing crimson, but that's way beside the point.
Yes.
It is at home, which is good. Alabama on the road, it's been kind of puzzling because you go to Camp Randall in Wisconsin and win 42-10.
Mm-hmm. You
go to Baton Rouge and win 42-13.
Wow.
But you can't win at Oklahoma or at Vanderbilt, at Tennessee.
Understandable.
That's understandable. That was a poorly played game.
They should have won that game too, though.
Should have. Really should have.
It was just an ugly game.
It was, and I expect this to be an ugly game. But what would it take for Auburn to win this Iron Bowl? Basically, Alabama not improving.
Playing like they did last week.
If both teams play like they did last week, Auburn would win.
I think that's true. But, yeah, it's a long shot. So, on that note, we'll jump straight to Zach's picks because I think it's in there.
It is. It is in there, and there are a lot of picks this week. But we're going to start with a Friday game instead of Saturday. Georgia Tech at Georgia. Georgia's 9-2. They've already clinched a spot in the conference championship game. Do you think Georgia Tech has the capability to come into Athens and pull an upset?
It's kind of like the Alabama-Auburn game. If it was at Georgia Tech, they'd have a lot better chance. They already beat Miami over there.
They did.
But no, I think Georgia, now they got everything right in front of them, just like Alabama did last week. So I'll probably take Georgia in that one at home.
Okay, I will too. Georgia Tech, last week they played North Carolina State, and it took a pick six. It was a phenomenal game, but in the first quarter, they basically had won it in the first quarter with a pick six on a jet sweep that bounced off the receiver's hands back to the quarterback. He tipped it into the air, grabbed by a Georgia Tech lineman. He took it to the house. And Georgia Tech ended up winning by 1 point.
Right.
So they really, even though they beat Miami, Georgia Tech's not that great.
No, Miami's not that great.
That's true as well. But that's a conversation for another day. So I'm picking Georgia, and we'll move into Saturday games. First game on Saturday, Tennessee at Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt, as certain teams in our state have learned, is not a pushover. Do you think Tennessee has a shot to lose that one, especially at Knoxville? Not Knoxville, but at Nashville.
They had to win both Alabama and Auburn to even be bowl eligible. This is a 6-win Vanderbilt. This is not a great Vanderbilt team.
Well, for Vanderbilt, 6-6 isn't that bad.
I mean, that they both lost to Vanderbilt is just it's inexcusable, really. So, I mean, they should be sitting here 4-7, but they aren't. They're going to a bowl game, probably Birmingham. Tennessee will thump them.
You really think it'll be that bad?
Well, Tennessee's not really blowing anybody out much, so be 10 points probably.
I say Tennessee wins this one very, very closely. I think Vanderbilt is going to come out there and fight very hard because I'm sure they'd rather win this one than a bowl game. So they'd be more focused for this one than for any Birmingham Bowl against East Carolina or whoever.
No, it's going to be
Pittsburgh. That might be a good football game. Right. But that's also another conversation for another day. So we're both picking Tennessee. I think it'll be a lot closer than most, but we'll see what happens. Next up, last year, Kentucky pulled a stunning upset of Louisville at Louisville. That was a good Kentucky team and a great Louisville team. This year, we have a bad Kentucky team and a decent Louisville team.
Yes, we do.
So it's at Kentucky. You think Louisville gets the revenge?
Boy, I mean, this is Kentucky's bowl game, basically. And Louisville they can beat them. But, this is tough. I'll take Louisville, but I don't feel good about it. I mean, Kentucky's they were so much better early in the year. I don't know what happened.
They almost beat Georgia.
Beat Ole Miss?
This
is inexcusable.
But then they got beat by Auburn, and that derailed the season. And they're sitting at 4-7. 4-7.
After such a good start.
And Kentucky's a team that desperately fought to keep their coach, Mark Stoops, from going to Texas A&M. In fact, Stoops was going to go. But A&M leaked the information early, and he said, I'm done. I'm not going to do it.
And now they're desperately looking to get rid of him, probably. He's got another year.
He does. He's a hero.
It was disappointing season.
I'm picking Louisville. You say you're not sure about it. I really am. I think Louisville wins big. I don't think Kentucky stands a chance, even though it is in Lexington. Mm-hmm. Next up, here's a very, very interesting game. South Carolina at Clemson. A couple of ranked teams. Clemson, they might have a shot at the playoffs if they win this one. And if Miami loses at Syracuse Saturday, Clemson would be going to the ACC championship game.
I think they're soft. Their schedule, if they played South Carolina's schedule, probably a few more losses. But if it was at South Carolina yet again, I'm going to take Clemson, and I don't feel good about that either.
Well, 2 years ago, you had a mediocre at best South Carolina team going to a 10-1 Clemson team at Clemson in Death Valley, and South Carolina won it. I think they make it 2 in a row winning at Clemson.
I wouldn't be surprised.
I'm picking South Carolina because they have all the right momentum, and they really, any other year, they'd be competing for a playoff spot with this new 12-team playoff. You're going to see 3-loss teams make it, which is what South Carolina is right now. They're 8-3.
And this would knock Clemson out.
It really would, because a 3-loss SEC team is a lot different than a 3-loss ACC team. But
as you're pandering for Alabama,
I am. I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful and desperate that Alabama might sneak into the playoffs.
But what if South Carolina wins that? They'd also have 3, and plus they'd have a win over Clemson, even though they did lose the head-to-head.
Yeah, Alabama beat them head-to-head. So
I don't know if that should matter at this point.
It should. It should. And
well, let's hope it gets to that point. We'll see.
Yeah, I would take that. Mm-hmm. So if it's between Alabama and South Carolina for a playoff spot,
they would take
that shows what kind of season it's.
Look at the name. They would take Alabama.
That shows what kind of season it's been in college football when Alabama and South Carolina are in the same boat fighting for a playoff spot. Oh, mercy. So you're picking Clemson. I'm picking South Carolina. Disagree on that one.
Probably a good pick.
Do we disagree on this one? Arkansas at Missouri. Arkansas's had a pretty good year. They're 6-5. Missouri, it's been a good year by their standards, but they were supposed to be in contention for the playoffs. And right now, they're just hadn't looked good.
No, I don't feel good. I haven't felt ever since Vanderbilt almost beat them. They've kind of just floated through. They beat the teams they're supposed to. That's at home. I'll take Missouri. But boy, I wouldn't be surprised on that. These are tough games. And if you had switched the location, I'd probably pick the other team on almost all of them.
I can agree with you on this one. If it were at Arkansas, I would pick the Razorbacks in a heartbeat.
Yep.
Bringing back Bobby Petrino as the offensive coordinator turned out to be a good decision because it saved Sam Pittman's job.
He did.
This guy was going to get fired.
He had some big wins this year.
And they went 6-5, beat Tennessee.
Stormed the field.
Somehow did storm the field. So I reckon all that NIL money they're getting from all the big corporations in Arkansas is helping them out. I don't think it helps them in this situation, though.
Missouri?
I'm taking Missouri. I think the Tigers will be fired up for this one. Even though season hasn't gone the way they wanted, this game should. So both going with the Tigers. Mm-hmm. Next up, Oklahoma at LSU.
Oh,
can Oklahoma can they wake up for this game after the way they beat Alabama last week?
No, and they're not very good. They kind of caught a break last week. I really thought this team was going to go 5-7. I thought they'd lose to Alabama and lose to LSU, and they wouldn't even make a bowl game. Now they're in the hunt for Birmingham. That's what we need to call these 6-win teams, the hunt for Birmingham.
Hunt for Birmingham.
Yes.
Now that they've got a really
Arkansas's in there.
Yeah, now that they've got a really nice stadium in Birmingham, everyone wants to go there.
Yes. At Oklahoma. Got a lot to choose from this year. But I don't feel good about this one either. But I am taking LSU. They're not very good.
LSU's been kind of disappointing.
Yes,
they did beat Vanderbilt last week.
That was a big win for them.
Which is a huge accomplishment.
Had to.
Even though the students were chanting that they wanted to fire Brian Kelly. Don't know if that's going to happen or not. I'm picking LSU because if they do lose this one, then his job might be on the line. I think LSU wins. It's at Death Valley. Of course, that doesn't mean too much.
Not like it used to.
Not like it used to. Oklahoma, I just don't think they can wake up from that
would
big
be
win.
Something to bounce back and win that game too. Yeah.
So next to the last game, massive game around college football. Texas A&M, a spot in the SEC championship game, most likely on the line. It's at Kyle Field. What are you thinking?
Now, I know their playoff hopes basically were dashed, but they still have it right in front of them.
They do.
Just
they
win.
Can still win
Just
out.
win 2 games and you're fine. But I don't see them beating Texas. They're not that great. Not that Texas is. They've had their
Texas has
every year. Every team has a flaw. It seems like maybe except Oregon.
They almost lost to Boise State and Idaho first 2 weeks of the season. Of course, Boise State's turned out to be a really good football team who also has to fight to survive every week.
See how quickly we can go on a tangent?
We can.
Just like that.
We are going from Kyle Field to Albertson Stadium with the blue turf in Boise. But
I will go Texas. Yes, and I think you're going the other way.
I am. I have to. It's at Texas A&M.
And they've been waiting for this.
They've been waiting since 2011. They're going to be fired up for this. It's also the 25th anniversary of the Texas A&M bonfire collapse on campus.
And you say bonfire, you think of our bonfires around here. No,
That's
this was
big
basically
bonfire.
a building. It was basically as tall as a
55 feet tall.
I mean, this was no Alabama bonfire. This was a Texas bonfire.
This ain't burning brush off.
And they quit doing it after
they had to.
And they had to. They shouldn't have never been doing this.
It got to 105 foot high in the 60s. That's just
absurd.
If that thing tumbles while it's burning, you're going to burn the entire state down. So
that was very dangerous.
Yeah, I think the Aggies would be fired up for this one, though, especially at home. 106,000 people there.
Oh, my gosh, I've been waiting for this.
Oh, man. If it was at Texas, I would pick the Longhorns easy. But I'm very, very confident. And at the beginning of the season, I said, there's no way Texas can go into Kyle Field and win. And I still think the same way. So I'm picking the Aggies just because, not because they're better, but just because it's at home.
You think they're going to let this opportunity slip away? In a way, it's kind of like the first time Alabama played at Auburn. Alabama had a better team probably, but there was no way that was going to win that game. There's no way.
And there was a national championship almost on the line in that situation.
So it's kind of like that. But I'm picking Texas. It's kind of an upset pick. I believe Texas is.
Texas really is. And speaking of 1989, just a little side note. Isn't it funny that Bill Curry nearly won a national championship at Alabama?
Yes, and they didn't like him.
No.
They didn't like him.
It's because he came from Georgia Tech. But speaking of the Iron Bowl, that's the final game on the docket. Auburn at Alabama. Crimson Tide only an 11.5-point favorite. Looked really, really bad last week. Auburn looked really, really good last week. Peyton Thorne has started playing like an actual quarterback, unlike Jalen Milroe.
It took a while.
It took him a little while. He looks like his old self from Michigan State. Does Auburn have any chance to go into Bryant-Denny and pull the upset off?
Well, history says no, because it's at Alabama, and I agree with that history, unfortunately. But it's going to be a brutally cold, especially when the sun goes down.
Ooh.
It's going to be a very cold night over there, and I don't see Alabama pulling this out. I know they're a 14-point
11
favorite last week.
Yeah, we were 14-point favorite last week. 11.5.
Yeah, now if they play like that, absolutely. But it's at home. Now if it was at Auburn, boy, that would be a tough pick. But Alabama at home, I'm going to pick them to win this, probably by a couple touchdowns.
I could see that. I think it's going to be a close, sloppy game, but I don't think there's any way Auburn can walk into Bryant-Denny Stadium and pull that one off. The Iron Bowl is really a home field advantage kind of rivalry. Whoever's at home is probably going to win unless something crazy happens, like it has the last couple times Alabama went to Jordan Hare. So I didn't want to bring that up to hurt your feelings.
One was over like a bunch of overtimes.
Four overtimes.
And then we won't talk about last year. Blown coverage on the play.
Well, it's a Hail Mary. It's a Hail Mary situation, so maybe they'll throw the ball. Just remember that much. But I don't think it'll come down to that this year. Probably just come down to some fundamental stuff that I think Alabama will be sharp on, ready, because now they realize, hey, wait, we didn't blow our playoff chances all the way. There's still a 30-something% chance according to the ESPN computers. So maybe, just maybe, take care of business against Auburn, and then you're in a decent spot, better than most teams in the country. And if Alabama loses this game, DeBoer might as well find himself another place to go, because he will be public enemy number one next year.
Yes. And I think these ESPN computers like 01 MacBooks or something to give Alabama that much of a chance. Anyway.
Well, they had Auburn.
But the thing is, who else is going to do it?
Who else? Yeah.
Yeah. You look at these other teams and they're problems also.
SMU?
Yeah.
Clemson?
No.
Ole Miss?
Yeah. No. But some of those teams are getting in probably.
Somebody is.
Somebody's got to be there.
If you
That's the thing.
Bring up that list. SMU, Alabama, Ole Miss, Clemson. One of those teams is going to go to the playoffs.
SMU, wow. That'd be insane.
SMU, in their first year in the ACC.
Yes. Incredible. I do like the colors, red, white, and blue.
Red, white. That's good. Good USA. To be patriotic.
Yes.
Even though it is strange for a team in Fort Worth, Texas to be in the Atlantic Coast Conference. Yes. But apparently money speaks louder than geography, and that's why they're there.
That's correct. Yes. All right, so that wraps up.
That wraps it up.
So, yeah, we'll have an Army-Navy pick next week.
Okay.
I think
that's the only game.
The SEC. Well, the championship
game, then Army-Navy.
Yes.
Then Army-Navy.
Yes, always later for some reason.
Yeah, strangely.
Got to be on its own. All right, so that wraps up our show. I guess coming up, we'll be talking about our players of the year and stuff.
We got to keep our high school.
Obvious, right?
We got to keep the high school people in there.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you can probably guess. If you watched any amount of these shows,
if you have watched the show, you know who it's going to be.
You probably watched 2 shows, you would know who these best players are around here. Oh, I didn't mention Unruh. 2,000 yards as of the last game.
I'm glad
he missed 2 games, so he played 10 games, and he got 2,000 yards and 5A ball.
That is a 200
And the same
yard.
region as Ramsey and Winona.
That's
Carver.
a 200-yard per game average.
Yes.
Hard to believe.
Yeah. Had over 700 yards in the playoffs, 10 touchdowns. So, unfortunately, that wraps up our high school stuff for the season. It's a great season for some teams.
Hopefully 2025 will be better.
Yes, we need more Walker County teams.
That's right.
Here.
We had all of our Winston County people in the playoffs this year. Now, if we can just get all 12 of our total teams in the playoffs, that would be pretty good.
That would be incredible.
That would be good.
Is it possible? Maybe. Let's do it and see.
Let's try.
Yeah.
Let's try.
It'll be better next year. All right, so it wraps up our show this week. I want to thank Bevill State for sponsoring. Get over to Songer Gym and watch them play basketball. It's a really good team this year. And they'll be in their new gym in January, which is very nice. Good. A lot of money put into that. They needed it. That's
right. That shows that they have a lot of support.
Yes. There'll be big crowds when we get in that new gym. And that wraps up our show. We'll see you next week.